Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at my thoughts on the previous TBR in a video that I call the last 5 books, though this time there are definitely more than 5. But I think I'm actually getting this one up on time as promised, so woohoo for that. We're going to get straight into it. This could potentially be a really long one, but I don't think it's going to be because rather than telling you about some of these, I'm going to be making promises. It's going to be a little weird, but yeah, diving in. First up, I believe I told you in the last TBR that I was going to be reading, can you even see that? I don't even know if it's going to pick it up, but You Were Here by Corey McCarthy. This isn't what the final cover looks like anyway, so you're not necessarily missing much by not seeing it. But I had actually told you that I had already read it, but was including it in that TBR because it was supposed to be in that TBR, but I had started it early and flown through it. So needless to say, that one was a thumbs up. I really, really liked it. It's told through multiple POVs, and it's one of the... This is something I talk about a lot, how multi-POV can really be hit or miss for me, and is often miss. And in this, I felt like it really was nailed. All of the voices were distinct, even down to the way they were presented. So some of them were told through art. You really do get a feeling for each of the characters, and they remain distinct. You always know whose narration you're getting. I don't want to get too into the synopsis because I don't want to spoil anything, but links to all of the books I'm going to mention are in the info so that you can go and find out what they're about. But basically, if you like contemporary, or if you like any kind of coming of age / coming to terms type of stories, or you like things that are slightly experimental, not enough to push people out of their comfort zones, but just to give you some variety and something different, I think you really can't go wrong. It was probably one of the strongest things I've read this year. Really liked it. And a full review of that will be coming very soon, and it comes out this month. I'm not sure if it's out quite yet, but I know it is out in March, so you should be able to get your hands on it soon, if not now. Next up, I read a whole bunch of graphic novels. This is not all of them. These are just the ones that were closest to hand, but I'm not going to go into these right now because Graphic Novel Week is actually going to be starting. We're having new graphic novel blogs and vlogs up Monday through Friday, and maybe even beyond that because I've got quite a few to cover. So all kinds of graphic novel goodies coming up, including my thoughts on all of these and then some. So I won't waste your time in this video, but keep an eye out for that. And then I read a couple of poetry books. Chasers of the Light by Tyler Knott Gregson and Wet Cement, a mix of concrete poems by Bob Razka, maybe is how you say his name, I'm not sure. So this one is for kids, and I think that's definitely who it would be best for. If you don't know what concrete poems are, they are poems that are shaped like whatever they're talking about so that it kind of adds a visual element to the poem. That's the Big Dipper. And from that aspect, I think it makes it a really useful tool for teaching kids about concrete poems. This would be great for classrooms. And the poems are very simplistic. They're very easy for children to absorb and clever and just kind of work well on that level. I think anything over a sort of middle grade reader, though, they might be a little too simplistic and might make older readers feel like they're childish. I don't want to say pointless, but, some older readers might feel that way. So I don't know that it's necessarily one to go out and pick up if you are an adult, unless you've got kids or you love concrete poems. But if you have kids that you're trying to teach about poetry, or you're a teacher that's looking for a sort of fun new take to approach the subject of poetry, this would be a really useful tool and something that I think could be really engaging for kids. Chasers of the Light, however, is definitely adult, and again, it is an interesting take. It's made up of poems written on found pieces of paper, and also poems that are created using the blackout method, where you take a piece of already written text, like a page from a book, and you block out everything except for the words that you want to use to create the poem, which is super fun and really another one that would be great to do with kids. A little more loose and puzzle-like, which can be fun, because poetry can sometimes be hard to engage people in. They're all sort of, mostly anyway, centered around the theme of a relationship, which if you read it straight through cover to cover might get to be a bit much, but individually I think most of them are really strong. Every now and then there'd be one that was a little too sappy, a little too saccharine for my black hole heart, but for the most part, really, really strong moments, really good, condensed and concise images, which is what I love personally about poetry, when you can both use the language and make the sort of lyrical sound of the poem, if you were to read it out loud, it just kind of trips off the tongue, to make that really stellar, but also to have those sometimes quiet, sometimes bold, but those concrete images, those moments that just conjure up a picture in your head or really hit you in the gut with how it's phrased or whatever. I think he does a pretty good job at that. They're not super rhymey and they don't generally go super cheesy, so this is my kind of poetry, and I am a poetry fan, so this one really worked for me. And you'll probably be seeing it in a video again soon, because there's something I want to do with this, so keep an eye out. And then lastly, I read Riders by Veronica Rossi. This one came out in February, which is when I started reading it, and then it kind of took a little bit of a backseat to some other things, partly because I couldn't get into it in the beginning, and I was thinking I was probably going to end up giving up, just because I wasn't connecting. And I don't know if it was my mood, or if it's the fact that it's a frame story, in this case where the main character is sitting down and telling someone what has already happened, and that can kind of create a little bit of distance between the reader and the story because it's over, it's happened, you feel like the tension is kind of gone. When the frame inserts itself occasionally, that can also break the tension, so it might have been a little bit of that. Frame stories are always a risk with me. But whatever it was, whether it was my mood or just getting past the framework, it just took me a little while to get into it. But once I did, I actually ended up really enjoying it and finding it very engaging. It's based around the idea of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and the main character, Gideon, is war. And I found the way it approached that interesting. I found Gideon interesting. I didn't realize when I started it that it was only going to be a duology. I assumed 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, there are going to be 4 stories and each of the horsemen will narrate one, but there are only going to be 2, so I'm really curious if Gideon is going to be the narrator in the second book or if it's going to be someone else. If it's someone else, I feel like maybe the other horsemen are being robbed a little bit, so I don't know, a little interesting as far as that's concerned, but yeah, I did end up liking it. I've seen really mixed reviews, so it's certainly not for everyone. Maybe you just have to get over the hurdle of the first 30 or 40 pages, but once I did, kind of swallowed it up. So that is everything that I read in the last stack of books. Sorry that some of the reviews are just getting a little shunted off to a later date. That's just coincidence because I'm saving them for various things and it's how it happened to work out this time. But hopefully that made this video a little shorter than these review videos often are. If you would like to see what I am currently reading, you can check that out in my next 5 books video. A lot of good ones in that stack. I can't wait to dig into it. And of course, keep an eye out for all of the Graphic Novel Week goodies. Feel free to chat with me about your thoughts on any of the books if you've read them, or if you want to just chat about any of them more in depth in general. But that is all for now. As always, thanks for watching and happy reading!